Closed caption. Closed captioning is available. If you would like to access the captioning service, please click the CC Live Transcript button and the Show Subtitle option. Thank you to Sarah, who is our closed captioner today. In this workshop, we will experience the creation and evolution of living rubrics in a mock music residency classroom, just as your learners would. As a whole group, we'll explore organic vocabulary, acquisition, skill practice, and collaborative goal setting as we create a rubric framework. In breakout groups, we'll create rubrics for self-assessment in real time as we compose a 30-second soundscape. Our presenter today is Hannah Madeleine Goodman. She is a New York-based soprano and teaching artist of opera, choral, and composition programs for opera companies and arts organizations across the U.S. She is currently a master teaching artist for the Metropolitan Opera Guild and a teaching artist for Los Angeles Opera and the Little Orchestra Society. To learn more about Hannah, please visit the presenters page at midatlantictaretreat.com/presenters. We are very pleased to welcome you, Hannah. It is all you.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And thank you all for being here with me. I'm really excited to do some fun soundscape composition with you today. It should be a little relaxed and hopefully give you some tools to really enable you to translate kind of what we do organically as teaching artists into a lot of educational and grant-based language. That's my real goal, is to take all the wonderful things you're already doing and help you help others understand how great they are. So I'm going to share my screen. One moment there. All right. So again, this is Living Rubrics, Student Guided Assessment. My name is Hannah Madeleine Goodman, and my pronouns are she, her. A little bit about me already very well covered. I've been a teaching artist for more than 10 years now. My first half of that work was in LA and the second half in New York City, where I teach out of now. I mostly work in opera and various musical forms with all ages, including professional development for teachers and teaching artists, and all ages of workshops from pre-K through memory care. I also spent a little time in administration, so I can tell you I love data. I am all about, again, getting you the grant funding you deserve, getting the understanding and appreciation from communities and schools and other organizations you go into. And that's really what I hope to give you today in this session. So we're going to go right into a demo lesson, the way that I have run and would run this in a music composition residency. Anywhere from grades 1 through 6, I would say, is how I'm going to be targeting this. So I'm going to ask you to participate as my learners, which means we'll be doing some breakout rooms. I totally understand if you'd like to keep your videos off, but there will be points where I ask you to unmute. In fact, we're going to lean a little bit into the technological limitations and chaos of Zoom and do some unmuting all at once. So just be on the lookout for that. So welcome, composers, to my classroom. My name is Miss Hannah. It's a pleasure to have you in class with me today. My very first question for you to get us started is, what is a composer? It's how I greeted you. What does a composer do? Anyone just jump off of mute and shout it out. What is a composer?
Writes music.
Wonderful, thank you so much. A composer writes music. Why would a composer write music? Who wants to add to that?
For fun.
Because
For fun, and because
they feel it inside them.
Because they feel it inside them. I love that. Both great answers.
To direct a story.
To direct a story. I love it. Wonderful. So we're kind of getting at this next question. What are some of the ways that music can make us feel through the storytelling, through what the composer feels inside of them? Let's get some very specific words. Throw them out there, type them in the chat. Joyful. I saw joyful in the chat. Wonderful. Great way music makes us feel connected. Love that. What are other ways that music can make us feel? Despondent, upbeat, comforted. These are great. Wonderful. So lots of different ways music can make us feel. So composers use, like we want to dance, wonderful. Composers use a lot of tools to help inspire these feelings in the people who listen to their music. One of these tools is loud and soft. Oh, on my end, my presentation disappeared. Is it still showing on your end? Wonderful. So one of these tools is loud and soft. Let me restart this one moment because it's showing a little bit of a bug. Thank you for letting me know in the chat. Let's try that once more. Here we go. Beautiful. Looks like it's back up. So one of these tools is loud and soft. We can evoke different emotions with loud and soft. I'm going to give you some music vocabulary for those words. I'm going to ask you to stay on mute, but go ahead and, for fun for anyone who's around you hearing you repeat these things, repeat them the way I do so that we can kind of learn what these words mean. So instead of loud and soft, we can use repeating after me, forte. I'm watching your videos. Yes, I see the hands and everything. Beautiful. We have piano. Good. So we can show different emotions that might be forte, like joyful was one I saw that might be forte. We had despondent in the chat, which might be more piano. All right, let's do some more repeat. We have fast and slow in music. We have fast tempo. Love it. Thank you for joining me with that. And we have also slow tempo. Excellent. Think about what emotions, what moods could go with these. We also have high and low in music. And repeating after me, we have high pitch. And of course, we have low pitch. So I'm just going to run through each of those words. Please repeat after me as I go. We have forte. We have piano. Good. We have fast tempo. We have slow tempo. We have high pitch. And we have low pitch. Excellent. So let's compose together. We're going to create a soundscape. So that's a lot like a landscape that you might have in an art class, but instead of painting trees and buildings and what we see, we're going to compose what we hear to put ourselves in a particular place or a particular mood. To do that, we need to set some ground rules for our song. We need a mood word bank. Please feel free to use the chat or to come off of mute and tell me what's some mood words that we could go with for this song. Anything. What do you think would be fun to create a soundscape for? I'm thinking maybe a place, maybe a holiday, anything like that that you associate specific sounds with.
Dreamy.
Right here. Dreamy. I love dreamy. I'm going to go ahead and add dreamy to our mood word bank. Dreamy. Wonderful. What's another word we could add to our mood bank? Feel free to type them. Relaxing. Ooh, we're getting a theme already. I love this. Dreamy, relaxing. Ocean. I love it. So now we're getting a place. Let's stick with these three. We have dreamy, relaxing, and the ocean. So let's think about this. A song that's dreamy and relaxing and about the ocean. Should that sound forte or piano? I'm seeing some hands for piano. I'm scrolling through. I'm seeing piano. I'm seeing a lot of agreement on piano. So I'm going to remove the word forte here. We're going to go with piano. How about fast tempo or slow tempo? I'm seeing a lot of slow tempo. I'm going to go with that as well. Thank you for using both the chat and showing me with your physical movements. High pitch or low pitch? Low. I'm seeing some low. I'm seeing a little bit of a mix. I'm seeing medium to low. We're getting specific on these. Let's focus a little more towards low pitch for that dreamy and relaxing feeling. So let me move this up to the screen again. We have our dreamy, relaxing ocean soundscape. We're going to keep it piano, slow tempo, and low pitch, or low to medium with a little flexibility there. Please take a moment, think about a sound that you might add to our soundscape. It can be an ocean sound, it can be a sigh, it can be using what you have in front of you, tapping a pencil, clapping your hands, anything using your voice or your body, a sound to contribute to our soundscape. I'm going to give you just a couple moments to think about that. We want our sounds to be piano, slow tempo, and low pitch. So think about a sound that you can create. I see some looking around the space, which I love to see. We're going to go ahead and compose our soundscape, which means I'm going to ask you, I moved one too far. Let me leave that up for you where you can see it. I'm going to ask you to unmute your microphones, and we're going to let all that sound wash over us on the count of 3. We're gonna let it go until I give you a 10, 9, 8, 7, all the way down to 1, 0. And then I'm going to ask you to remute. So on the count of 3, we'll all unmute, and I'll give you your 10 seconds before we remute. So again, we want those sounds piano, slow tempo, and low pitch. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And we'll remute. Excellent job. Lovely job. I loved getting those little pops of sound where people came in and out. I think we did a great job. That sounded very relaxing to me, very dreamy. I felt all those ocean feelings. I heard some waves. Maybe it was at night. Ooh, ocean drum I'm seeing in the chat. I loved that. Excellent job. So we really met this guideline, this framework that we created for our song. So I'm going to invite you now to go off in groups and do the same thing. I'm going to put that rubric up again. Let's stick with the same song for right now. So we're going to stick with dreamy, relaxing ocean, piano, slow tempo, and low pitch. We're going to go off into some breakout rooms. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to practice, try things out with your team. And then we're going to come back in and share. We'll see what happens. And we have this framework we created, but in music, we are never limited by the rules. So use this as a starting point and see what you come up with. And I believe we're going to assign you some breakout groups right now. If there are any questions while we're assigning breakout groups, please feel free to throw them into the chat since we have a moment here. No questions, very straightforward. I love it. In the rooms.
So if I could recap the assignment, we're supposed to take the same framework and practice a couple 10-second intervals of us creating a soundscape. And then I guess we perform this in the main room. Did I get that right?
Yes.
I can volunteer to be a timekeeper. Bring up my
Yes, I am just about to get home, so bear with me. Thank you.
This is a tricky time of day.
Is the name Roberto? It came in and out for me. I apologize.
It's Norberto. with
Apologies.
the
Yes, it's
N.
no. You can just call me Roberta. Yes.
Roberto?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So I think we're supposed to make a soundscape, is that right? I was trying to figure out what she meant, but kind of do the same thing that we just did.
Yes, I believe so. I'm one of the tech slash producers behind the scenes. And
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
I can actually send her into your room if you have more questions.
No, I think we're good. We're supposed to just follow the same rubric and kind of come up with, did she say how long it was supposed to be?
I believe you have, let's see, about 10 minutes roughly in the break room.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
You got some time to work.
Great.
I'm gonna pop into another one and check on them, but I'm sure you guys are gonna be great.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thanks.
Of course.
So we're really composing with 10 minutes.
I know.
We want to try something? Did Gabriella just go first? I think she just went to get something.
It sounds no.
I can hear a little bit. Hi, I'm tech behind the scenes. If you have any questions, let me know and I can send Hannah over. Looks like you're getting pretty innovative. I love it. I'm gonna hop over into another room, okay? Okay.
Trying to see how slow you can pour water, since we're supposed to be slow and dreamy.
Instrument? Okay. Hmm. I mean, if we're really getting creative, I have a yoga mat with like some texture to it. And I'm thinking maybe running my fingers on it.
Oh,
maybe
cool.
Give it a nice sound. So I'm going to go grab that really quick.
Okay.
I'm not musical.
Hi all, if you're just joining us, we are in breakout rooms right now. I can move you over into one of them. I've assigned a few of you. Please feel free to join the breakout rooms so that you can participate in this exercise. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Welcome back, everyone. I had a fantastic time popping into your breakout rooms. There were some really creative ideas happening there. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the screen again that has our rubric. Let's see, share screen. There we are. I saw we were running into some of the fun issues and challenges with Zoom, and in some rooms really leaning into those challenges. So I'd love to invite my friends in breakout room 1 to unmute themselves. Let's have someone count you off and go ahead and do our soundscape. I'll show you a countdown for 10 seconds for our soundscape.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Excellent. Thank you so much, room 1. That was so fun to hear it evolve as you went. How about breakout room 2?
Three, 2, 1. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, breakout room 2. Wonderful. How about breakout room 3?
Three, two, one.
Excellent. Thank you. Some creative instrumentation. How about last but not least, breakout room 4?
Three, two, one.
Excellent. Thank you so much, breakout room 4. Bravo to everyone. Love these 4 very different soundscapes on the same theme, this dreamy, relaxing ocean song. I'm actually going to leave up this slide instead of going ahead. Let's reflect a little bit on here. Would anyone like to share any challenges with staying within these parameters? I heard breakout room 4. I'd particularly love to hear from you. I think we went more forte than piano, and I'd love to hear about that decision.
Well, I think that was more of a technical issue since we were talking about original sound on and original sound off. So Hannah, would you like to address that to all of us so that we all can understand some of the limitations we have when we're working with our students on Zoom?
Absolutely. If there's time in the Q&A, I'll touch on this a little more, but just to give a really brief overview, on a desktop client, there's an opportunity to turn original sound on Zoom, which basically removes noise elimination. Zoom might think that if you're being too loud or too high pitched, or if you have a fan in the background, that it's a background sound you don't want and that it should clip the audio for you. Very well intentioned, not always helpful in practice. So maybe we had a forte sound because there was original sound and it was very unclipped. So we were getting the full power.
That was our problem. We could hear it as we started it, and then it would all cut off for each of the noises we were making. And so we were just trying to hear each other.
Absolutely. I'd love to ask breakout room 3. I heard we had some water moving at a slightly faster tempo. Was there a reason that you wanted the water to move a little faster, or again, was it more physics that we were working with?
It was unconscious, and I just tried to get the water sound in than anything else.
It sounded great. Did you like how it turned out with a little faster speed with the water?
Yeah, I think so. Slow tempo would be good too.
Yes, I noticed breakout room 2 had a slower water movement that made me think more of maybe waves at night that are moving a little slower, and I got a little more activity from the ocean as a side effect of that slightly faster tempo in room 3. Breakout room 1, not to neglect you at all, would anyone like to share anything about their experience with this? No? Good to go. Excellent. Well, I didn't move my slides because I wanted us to still look at this, but we did our composing in groups. We did our sharing. I'm going to move through a moment here for time. And we did our reflecting. So let's cap this demo lesson and let's come back to taking off the elementary composer cap for a second here. Thank you, first of all, for all of your active participation in that. I hope you had fun, because I had so much fun popping into your rooms and seeing your experimentations with the sound. So there's a lot of benefits to using rubrics in our teaching. Obviously, we know a lot of us have organizations and schools that demand this of us as teaching artists. Students clearly understand the expectations and feel successful on their completion. Hopefully, in doing this exercise, by writing down the steps first, you knew exactly what I wanted from you. And hopefully, even with our little brief soundscapes, had some feeling of success at achieving those goals. And we know how important that can be to learners of all ages, especially those who thrive with autodidactic or task-based work. This is a really important part of reaching a lot of different learning needs that you might experience in some of your teaching artist work. So there are very measurable and demonstrable learning outcomes, which again, this is where when you're reporting this to anyone else, this is wonderful, because I know you know the benefits of the art you bring in. You can see how a student of any age has thrived and grown through participating in an arts experience or an arts residency. But this gives me something very tangible that I can then turn around and say, look, I could tell that the majority of my students in the classroom understood the difference between forte and piano, and how changing the tempo might change the feeling of place in a song or affect the mood. So I can really demonstrably see that we understand the terminology and we understand the choices we're making. It can also really assist classroom management. It's so helpful for redirecting behavior if you have someone who's really off on a wild hair, to redirect back to, well, our song was going to be piano, right? So it doesn't sound very piano, the noise that we're making in this corner of the room right now. So let's make sure it's still in line with the goals of our song. Now, obviously, there's lots of limitations on conventional rubrics in an arts classroom. This is so difficult when we have one-time visits or short-term residencies, and we're not like a classroom teacher who has a long-standing rubric that the students know and expect. Every minute can be so precious when we come in. There's a real limitation of student creativity in arts practices sometimes when we use a more conventional rubric. We've probably all had the experience of a learner who clearly gets what we're doing and is connecting with the art, and they're creating art in a perhaps different way than we expected, different way than we might be evaluating for. We don't want learners to feel limited in their exploration of concepts. And again, this is a way to help access these learning goals for students who have other learning needs, especially students who thrive with challenging authority and might really be benefiting from that process on their own way. And we really can encounter this limitation of student and teacher communications. If learners don't understand your rubrics, they might not know what questions to ask. We're kind of at a dead end there. So this living rubric has a lot of benefits for what we do as teaching artists. It really supports one-time visits and short-term residencies as much as longer-term ones. I was able to, on the spot, assess without taking away from instructional time. I was able to hear you as a group, as a classroom, but also when I went into breakout groups, I could immediately see how much participation there was, who was maybe not entirely sure what they were doing with the material given, who was ready to go, and I got a real immediate pulse, not just on the group, but on each individual. Again, this translates these organic arts practices into languages of pre-existing pedagogical frameworks. So I'm going to show you this lesson plan again, kind of putting it into the language of the Bloom's taxonomy of learning, the revised version, the Webb's depth of knowledge, and National Core Art Standards. If you're familiar with any of these or any organizations you teach for require this of you. And most importantly, this utilizes co-construction learning. I did not walk in with a rubric for you today or any idea what we'd be writing a song about. You were an equal participant in creating these ideas and deciding what this rubric should be, which of course supports all of our social emotional learning goals and fosters some really great relationships between you as a teaching artist and the people you're instructing and between peers. It's also really important that we go back and we reflect and we revise the rubric and we say maybe that more medium tempo water was a great choice and we want to revise the rubric instead of revising the final product. So we're co-construction, we're on equal footing from the beginning to the end of this process instead of getting a hierarchy or an authoritative leadership style. So just walking through this very quickly, if these are helpful words for you for what you do. If they're not, feel free to disregard them. I'm going to kind of walk through an orange up here what part of my lesson plan this is. This reddish pink is the Bloom's taxonomy revised terminology, blue for Webb's depth of knowledge, and the more hot pink for National Core Art Standards. We start with our core concept for today. We're composing. What's a composer? We move into some organic acquisition of vocabulary. We're getting mood words, which are what we'll be using as our entry point to composition. Then we're acquiring specific vocabulary to this arts process, which is hitting important goals like remembering or recall and reproduction, depending on which taxonomy of learning you're looking at. We're acquiring this organically so that we're building kind of our rule set for the rubric together, again with that co-learning, co-creation. At the main activity, first we do a guided demonstration all together. So it's safe, it's a brave learning environment to try out things and be uncomfortable and make mistakes, all as a group. So this is hitting ideas of applying for the Bloom's taxonomy or skills and concepts for Webb's and creating for the core art standards. We have our mood bank. This is our co-construction part. We're hitting understanding, recall and reproduction, and connecting. We're showing that we understand those words. We're recalling the vocabulary and we're connecting it to the mood words. For our main activity, we're applying. This is skills and concepts for Webb's, and this is creating as a point of the National Core Art Standards. When we get to this creation on our own, it's application of knowledge. I'm not holding hands through it. Learners are showing me that they understand. They're analyzing, they're using strategic thinking and making connections, which are high level on these learning taxonomies. Sharing, we are doing a performance, we're demonstrating understanding, we're using that creating skill set, extended thinking, and importantly for core art standards, performing, presenting, and producing. And when we reflect and revise, we're evaluating. We're doing extended thinking. Where did we not follow the rubric? Where does the rubric serve us? Where does the rubric not serve us? And we're responding to the activity. So this actually hits every point on the Bloom's taxonomy and the Webb's DOK and all your core art standards within an activity. Not changing the activity you would ordinarily be doing in the classroom. Just putting some language in to help you assess on the spot and then be able to report back what you did, saying, look at all these things we accomplished. I can tell where they're at. Here's a nice little bow on what I do to make it understandable. So a real example of this kind of compositional rubric is from a residency that I did this past year, where, funnily enough, that you chose oceans. Did not plan this, I promise. But this was a fourth grade classroom who was writing a song about the theme of oceans. They decided to use a mix of forte and piano dynamics. Forte for disruption in the ocean and piano for calm moments. They, like you, chose a slow tempo and a low pitch, which also the universality of this tells me. They and you understood the musical concepts applying to the mood concepts. So I'll play just a little bit of what this looks like after 10 sessions of a composition residency with fourth graders, and this music that they've composed being arranged for a chamber ensemble. Now, this was a residency at a public school in Brooklyn, not an art school. Starting the year, this was not vocabulary that the students had about music. It was just giving them a toolkit to express their musical ideas. Obviously, in a longer term residency, we're really able to grow those skills. But this very first rubric, just like the one we created today, is one of the most useful pieces that I have at the end of a residency to bring back to an organization, which then they bring to grant applications to say, look, I know music is important to schools. You know music is important to schools, but here I can actually quantify, for lack of a better word, learning without taking time out of my very precious limited residency time to do quizzes or tests or grading. We're just organically showing that process. So, that wants to play again, and we're not going to let it. I'm going to give you a little living rubric cheat sheet, which is a great full slide to screenshot or write down, or if you want to have this kind of easily accessible. I love a good acrostic, so here's what I have for you. So for this living rubric, the first step is concepts. We're acquiring vocabulary and skills used in the rubric. We're putting it into the language of whatever art form we do. Hands-on, we demonstrate the activity so that it's a safe and a brave space to try all that out together. Really key for a lot of our learners. We evaluate, we demonstrate the application of the rubric together. So you sit down with your learners, you say, this is what you're being not graded on or judged against, but this is what we're looking at as our framework. Let's look together. Let's see what we did, see what we didn't do. Then the independent creation activity, letting them out on their own, as we did in breakout rooms, to go and do the learning process. And then the talk back, evaluating, discussing, and revising, and having flexibility again to demonstrate learning by changing the rubric instead of changing the final product of the arts process, which can be so valuable to some of our learners, and often those who really embrace and understand what we're doing and are on such a creative wave of energy from what we've done that they've gone a little bit off script. So again, that cheat sheet for you is concepts, acquiring vocabulary, hands-on demonstration, evaluating, using your rubric together, activity, independent creation time, and talk back, returning to evaluate that success. And that's all I have for you today. So I'm going to open it up to some question and answer. I'll stop my share so that I can see everyone very clearly. And just thank you so much again for jumping in and participating in some soundscape creation with me. I would love to hear any questions you have. Feel free to type, feel free to unmute, raise hand. Any of those Zoom methods work.
Can you send us a copy of this and a copy of one of your actual rubrics that you've used in class?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to send this presentation, which includes that rubric and the final product. And again, that rubric was co-created with the students. So I never walk in with a rubric. We walk out of one of the first sessions with something like that, which was scrawled on an iPad. I'd be happy to send that. I see Christine has a hand up.
Sure. My question is about when there's not unanimity in the creation stage for the rubric. If one group of students really want one thing and another group wants something different, how do you then continue that process so you arrive at something you're all signed on to?
That is a great question, and I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of this rubric process, because if I have students who are in a very fundamental disagreement, they have to explain and justify what that disagreement is about. If we have one group who says our song that's dreamy and relaxing about the oceans has to be forte, and another group who says it has to be piano, they have to demonstrate to me that they really understand the concept in talking this out. Well, why should a song about oceans be forte? What makes you think about forte with oceans? They might say it's powerful. It might be out of control. They have to defend their choices, and then I see they really understand the moods conveyed by this musical choice. Usually, we're able to sway one group or another with some very intense discussion. Otherwise, we get what we had with the example I showed, where one group wanted forte for the disrupted oceans and one wanted piano for the calm oceans. And we're able to incorporate all those parts into the final product so everyone sees their efforts.
Mhm.
I'm just checking if there are any in the chat. No, none over there. Daniel, I see your hand up.
This is gonna, I'm sorry if this sounds, I don't want to be a pain, but when we start talking about something like an object or a place, and you want to talk about qualities of sound, and students will want to do like it sounds like, or so like if you're in the rainforest, the snake goes, but you're no longer thinking about the quality of the sound, you're thinking about the snake.
Right.
And the wave goes shh, which is not a low sound, and it's not part of our rubric, but it's what we associate with the ocean. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. It's just that these things are different, and that's why I sometimes shy away from those kinds of directions, because if we start to concretize the source of the sound, I think it takes us away from the abstract qualities of the sound. And if we're trying to deal with something we can't see, which is sound, it's hard to stick with that abstraction and not go to the concrete thing, especially if you're less than 8 years old. You want to go to the concrete thing. So I'll shut up. What do you think of that sort of little conundrum? Or do you even think it's a conundrum?
Absolutely. And you're right, especially with, I would say, my first through third graders doing this kind of residency work, the inclination is to go very cinematic. So they might not create a sound that meets all three parts of my rubric, but I can really still gauge understanding of other parts. For example, the snake hissing, is it forte or piano? I ask them why, and that usually gets some questions about where the snake is located. And that turns into, well, how big is the rainforest? Is it a scary rainforest, or do we feel safe in the rainforest? So we're able to have conversations then, choices that might not initially show that understanding, to bring it back and to start thinking at a deeper level about it. But you're absolutely right. In a longer term time with this kind of work, we delve into more abstraction and avoiding just creating an image, but I think it can be a great entry point for further conversation. Does that address your point? It's a great point.
Yeah, you're saying, just as we all have to honor all responses, right? You need to just work with whatever comes up, and what you're doing is you're redirecting back to the thing that you want to be talking about and being patient with it.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. My first graders did this year with a song about climate change, which was bold for a first grade classroom, and got in some very intense discussions about how much litter there was making a certain noise. So, they can take their very physical image understanding and really have some good talk back about it when encouraged. I see, Jane, you're unmuted. Is there something that I can answer?
I don't really have a question. I teach primarily private students in one-on-one situations, but I do encourage them to take a scale or to compose, and I will be able very, very comfortably to. I can see myself using a lot of these tips to really help my students get a good grip on what kinds of things they can do with their instruments.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jane. I'm so happy to hear that.
Hannah, we have about 3 minutes left and one question left in the chat from Andrea. Do you adjust the rubric if you find it not working or not covering the work that begins to evolve?
Great question, and absolutely. Which is a valuable lesson in itself for an arts process of when we color outside the lines and when that becomes a beautiful form of art, maybe not what we started with the intent of. But yes, we adjust the rubric. I wanted to find an example for the slides and couldn't from this particular year, but we often have a song that is created and goes through many stages of evolution, and we get to the final product and we listen back looking at our rubric and something doesn't match, and we discuss why. We want to find out where in the process that happened. Why does it change the story? Does it convey different information? And we want to then say, do we like this change? Not do we like how it sounds, is it fun? But do we like the change in what the storytelling is, the change in the mood of the music? And usually we can do a very easy, like thumbs up, thumbs down with younger students, or a little talk back with older students about, do we change the rubric? Do we change the final product? It is usually the rubric that changes, which is great. And then I'm able, from the conversation that we had, to still say, okay, they understand the process. I can still demonstrate that understanding, even though the end product was different, because they justified it.
Anna, thank you so much. I feel like I learned so much today, so thank you. And thank you all for also attending today's session. I hope you too had some great takeaways and you're able to put them into practice. Before we end, we'd love to take a minute to hear from you about how this workshop resonated with you. So our producer will now post a quick Zoom poll. I believe it's about 3 questions. It'll stay up for about 2 minutes. So if you could please answer those questions, that would be, it's 4 questions. Sorry, I lied. It is 4 questions. If you could please fill that out over the next 2 minutes, that would be great. And as you are doing so, I will again share that the 2022 Mid-Atlantic Teaching Artists Virtual Retreat is a co-sponsored project of the Mid-Atlantic State Arts Agencies in partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts, as well as the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies. We are so grateful to all of our collaborators, as well as to you for your participation today. If you haven't done so already, please check out that Mid-Atlantic Create and Innovate Award for your chance to receive a $1,000 cash prize. We'll post that link in the chat for you to look at your eligibility, as well as the application for that award. And we'll give you about 1 more minute on the feedback survey. And I will pop the link in the chat for the Create and Innovate Award. Again, the survey will close in about 20 seconds, so thank you so much for your feedback. We look forward to seeing you after a quick break for one of our next sessions. We have sessions at 3:40 that focus on decolonizing the semantics of expression, as well as navigating the challenges of arts residencies. We hope you'll check them out. Thanks all so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to close this poll
Thank
shortly.
you. Wonderful.
There will be a slide
Thank you so
showing
much.
the next couple sessions and what you can expect from the rest of the day. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jessica.